signaling their virtues with a pic on their profile. So if you think you're ready, you don't need more proof. Conspiracy deniers are denying the truth. They fabricate our problems and pretend to provide the best solution, but we all know they lie. They lied about the weapons and they lied about health. They lied about the fact that they're transferring the wealth. You should really notice how they're pushing the fear. Keep everybody terrified and not thinking clear. Yeah. Everybody's not thinking clear. Keep everybody terrified. Yeah, can do nothing. Keep everybody terrified and not thinking clear. When you do, you realize that this is the trick. It's getting really stupid now, they're taking the mic. Said, do you think you're ready? Can you handle the truth? Or are you in denial and demanding more proof? They demonstrate in real time how they're spelling you lies. But no one pays attention, no one opens their eyes. They walk around like zombies with their head in the mobiles, signaling their virtues with a pic on their profile. Yeah. Signaling their virtues on their profile. Hey.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think I'm having some problems with my chat because I have several people in chat. Oh, wait, they're in y'all's chat. And I can now see your chat. Ajot, okay, you're actually live. Everybody's live. I'm going to go ahead and bring everybody up because this is all like a test run on some shit that's happening. What's up, folks? Are we here? We're there?
Here.
All right. So I got green lights on everybody up here. We good, right?
We're
Everybody
good.
live?
I think.
Super. That's cool. That's real neat. That'll mean when I bring guests on for Sasquatch Shields, they can stream it to their channel. We don't have to worry about none of that weirdness no more. Right?
Right.
Like some people just don't know how to share. So
Well, you have to make sure that they hit their little thing and go live because I was waiting for mine to click on when you went on and I had so
right. I almost stopped the intro to be like, hey John, you didn't go. It's not happening. You got the green light, it's not going. But I figured we'd let it play out and see what happened. What's up, Brooklyn Audits? Good to see you, bud.
I figured it out.
All right, so y'all know how this goes, right? I've got some media prepared for us to discuss, and we're going to talk about it, and we'll go wherever the conversation goes after that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But first, oh, by the way, the intro was done by 007. You'll find him on YouTube doing digital busking just about every day. And he actually does some really good renditions of some old folk tunes and whatnot. It's real cool. Like Black Sabbath and War Pigs. You know what I'm saying? Old folk songs. As if it's your business, welcome to the show, bud. Good to see you. We're going to get to chat in just a second. But before we get up, what's up, big man? Audit? Seen any good toilet mints recently? Before we get too far into that, we're going to jump right off into this whole like inner soliloquy thing. I can't never write a script. I can't do that thing. I've tried a million times and it always sounds crappy whenever I read it back to myself. And so I can't do that. So instead I outsource that whole concept.
Captain June in the year 2020 when this reporter first signed up for a YouTube account. It was a few months before I started producing any content, but just the same, I immediately started receiving the monthly creator newsletter. In fact, the first one arrived just a day or two after I had signed up. And what was the topic of said newsletter? Was it welcome to YouTube? Was it tips for new creators? Was it helpful links if you require assistance? No, it wasn't any of those things. It was help us celebrate Drag Appreciation Month. Some of you grinning right now. You remember getting that email too. Now, it's easy these days to lose sight of how quickly a complete societal upheaval can take place. And after they're over, we only then tend to remember where things ever were before it. But remember and consider that back in the late spring of 2020, there wasn't anything remotely like the veritable drag queen industrial complex that we have today. Nobody had ever heard of a thing called Drag Queen Story Hour back then. There wasn't a Yogi Berra-looking dude in a woman admiral's uniform running around the White House telling everybody to go castrate their son and hack their daughter's breasts off. And most crucially, normal people were still allowed to be weirded out by the sight of big, hairy, hulking male sex perverts sashaying around their local elementary schools in their finest evening gowns. It's amazing to consider that things were so different such a short time ago, but then we lost a whole hell of a lot in 2020, both culturally and materially, and nearly all of it we gave away voluntarily through our own insistence on complying with things we damn well knew were wrong. So the next time there's a ruggedly handsome man on your YouTube imploring you not to comply or else you'll be really sorry, you may do well to listen closely to what he's saying, because it's an inconvenient truth about the human condition. Bad people can't do bad things unless good people let them. So that was my first introduction to being a YouTube creator. Help us celebrate Drag Appreciation Month. Learn about the history of drag. Get pointers for making your own drag videos. Hell, maybe I just should have gone with it and put on the damn evening gown. I'd probably have 2 million subs and a job with the State Department by now. But you know who was paying close attention when YouTube sent that email? Dylan freaking Mulvaney, that's who. And if you don't know who Dylan Mulvaney is, I think I really would rather not give a detailed explanation, but then I guess I don't really have to. He is a guy who tried every conceivable narcissistic attention-getting behavior that he could think of because he wanted to be a social media celebrity instead of getting a real job, because that's just what you do now when you're a kid in your 20s. So where kids in former generations wanted to be the president or an astronaut or a rock star or a big league ball player, the top rung of the professional ladder for today's youngsters is TikTok influencer. And as much as I would be joking about that, there actually is polling data to confirm the truth of that statement. Depressing as that is for anyone who wishes to see modern society still exist 50 years from now. So there's Dylan Mulvaney just toiling away in obscurity as an obnoxious, flamboyant gay man, grasping at any possible thing he can think of to get his view counts higher, including the obligatory white male guilt videos that every white male liberal is required to make. So there's a lot of 5- and 6-year-old Instagram videos of Dylan Mulvaney making weepy apologies for his white cisgender privilege and other such made-up nonsense. But none of it made a dent. Nobody gave a damn about anything this guy did because it was so painfully obvious that he was just some unfunny, untalented hack who felt himself entitled to fame and celebrity. And then YouTube sent out that creator newsletter in June of 2020, and Dylan Mulvaney looked at himself in the mirror and said, "You have been doing this all wrong, girlfriend. Let's put that dress on and get down to making our fort, baby." And son of a bitch, would you look at that, from the very first video where he put on the wig and the makeup and the dress and began his new career as a grotesque caricature of what he thinks a woman is? This dude's life has never been the same. Just in the last 2 weeks, he's met with the president and the vice president in the White House, and he had Drew Barrymore kneeling at his feet on national television as if he is an object of some sort of religious devotion.
But don't you dare hustle.
Go thinking Dylan Mulvaney is living a charmed life just because he's rich and famous and celebrated by all the fashionable people from coast to coast, because that is not how this works. Dylan Mulvaney, you see, is a victim. He is a victim of something called transphobia. And if you're thinking right now, but wait, didn't he first cynically appropriate womanhood and then cynically appropriate transgenderism at the same time? Well, I'm glad you asked, because yes, he did. Now, nothing could be more transparent about the scam this guy is working. He wanted to be internet famous, and he was willing to do absolutely anything to make it happen. There's even a whole 6-year paper trail of video evidence showing how fake and cynical this guy's whole act is.
Let me know when you figure out the problem
any of that, or else you will be attacking the LGBTQEIEIO movement. and community. It's like the origin of the China virus, or how many moles were at the Capitol on January 6th for the FBI, or why 5 states stopped counting on election night over a busted water main in Atlanta. We just don't talk about any of these things. But I have much that I want to say about the cult of transgenderism, so I'm just going to say it. And here's the first item I want to discuss. Is there no longer such a thing as transvestitism? Because it seems like that line has been blurred into irrelevance. But should it be? Ponder that question. Get back to me in 5 seconds. Jim Eagle, stop trying to squeeze into that
Cue the
egg
music.
and hit the damn music.
I don't know.
Cue the music. Yeah, there you go, Jim. I've been begging him to turn up his game for months. Finally, he hasn't done it, but I have figured out how to turn his gain up for him because I'm the man, right?
He's wearing a different shirt, man.
He has new wardrobe.
Yeah.
He had some folks make him a custom New Jersey because he said that with his newfound direction with his channel, he felt like there should be a wardrobe upgrade, and nothing changed except the color.
Yeah.
I love it. It's great. It just shows the right kind of anal for this type of thing. You know what I mean? I can't stand it. Y'all got to deal without names. Y'all know who these people are. You're on their channels or my channel, and you've previously seen them on the show. So y'all should know who these people are. This is ATL Audits. And what have you changed your name to most recently?
ATL Transparency, right?
ATL Transparency.
Yeah.
Is it ATL Transparency News now, downtown Atlanta, outside the courthouse, 3 constitutions? And I mean, like, it used to be serious, dude. You had a real name once.
Yeah.
Hey, Doc, what's your most recent channel name?
ATL Transparency News.
Just AJOT.
Just AJOT's Quarter. Fire Phoenix, Phoenix Fire, Phoenix Rising.
That's
What
my
is
second channel.
Which one is it?
AJOT.
No, Fire. Okay, all right.
Oh, Fire Phoenix is my second
There
channel.
you
I'm sorry.
go. You're doing good. Doing good. Welcome in from Florida, Frankie. Let's get back to the top and do this whole thing that we do right here is what we do, right? If I could find it. Oh, wow. Y'all have been chatty. Oh, wait. No, I got everybody's chat in here. That's why. Snark and Sass gets the gold. Andrew Langlois gets the silver. And Workline gets the bronze. Welcome to the show, Michelle. Good to see you. Snark and Sass is still in here. That's good to know. As if it's your business, welcome. You know how this works. Jack of Omega. Jack off Jack Omega. Right. Okay. There you go. ATL showed up. It's good to see you in chat. Brooklyn Audit Gonzo journalism brought back by Brooklyn Audits. That's how that's done. We got Big Man Audits. He's open here. Over there in probably AJOTS, if I had to guess. We're talking about Death Taters tonight, but we got to get around to getting to it. Right. We got Spooky Serpent on Fire. Cool. That's such a really cool name. Deanna Sharia Moore. 2. Fat Daddy 44 is in the house. Good to see you, bud. Vic Ferrari showed up. That's awesome. Love to see it. Really do. Let's see. Mom's Wholesome Videos. I'm famous. You're famous. One of us is famous. Frankie MMA Arizona. I don't know. But he's watching from Florida, so that makes no sense.
You sure talk a lot.
But it's like the guy from Cleveland that we called Tex. The Smoking Auditor has joined the chat. Y'all be careful with that one, girls. He's dangerous. Yep. All right. So, as the title says, I have a couple of bits of
this video is sponsored.
I don't care about HelloFresh, but look, y'all go check out HelloFresh because he said so, not because I said so, because I'm not sponsored by any of these crackers. I just like the work they do. And I figure if their sponsors sponsoring them, then they're doing good work because they're being sponsored. I don't know. It might be a self-eating gargantuan tail or something, kind of like a wagging the dog situation.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so paleo food. I'm sure a lot of y'all are probably thinking that I'm talking about some paleo diet that goes along with the whole HelloFresh commercial I got going on over here. You can just skip that entirely.
I never know what you're talking about. So.
Oh, that's good. That makes it fresh. But that's part of the reason why I have these videos, is to kind of clarify what I mean when I say something. Like, most people don't know what I mean when I say, when you start talking about lithic culture and the Schulian tradition versus the Moostrian tradition, you're going to have to get into the distinction between fluted and biface points, right? Nobody gets that shit. There's like 3 guys in South Georgia who just went, yep, I understand. I get you. You're right. It's a very delicate point, and they're not here tonight. Mm-hmm. But this isn't the paleo diet. I might have clickbaited ATL in here with that one. He's talking about grilling, right? It wouldn't be hard to get me to grill, dude. I'm totally down for smoking some meat, but we'll take that backstage later, and I'll show you exactly how to smoke some meat. Anyway. Anybody? Nobody? No? Come on, I said it.
I'm here.
All right, good. All right, we'll just let it roll then. This isn't about the paleo diet. This is about the actual foods eaten by the early people, the Stone Age people of Europe, which we have more information on than we have for just about any other population, short of possibly the Western Levant. I think there might be a little bit of more linear data there. We just haven't had a chance to really look for it because of the unsettledness of the region.
Well, you know what? Every staple in every country comes from that area.
Just about it. It's actually a little heavier than that. I mean, the only staple that doesn't really come from that area is a couple of beans, right? And then corn, maize. Otherwise, it's found in Levant. There's a couple of wild rice species that are there, but there are equivalent species there.
Corn comes from there as well. I mean, not the same corn that we have today, but the original corn.
I'm pretty sure the Bible referent corn was millet. The description of the kernel is almost flawless. When they say corn in the Bible, when they refer to corn as a plant, I think they're talking more along the lines of millet. Heavy barley, maybe something we don't have anymore today, because they describe a kernel that's large but weighed down in the field, right? So if you don't harvest it at just the right time, it'll fall over and go bad. So you got to be on top of that stuff.
What he said.
Yeah, later we'll go over the whole development of the North American corn. Yeah, maize. I don't know if that's North America, South America. It's pretty much all of it. All of it. Everywhere. Corn was corn, and they like it. All right, so this is Dan Davis. Dan Davis is an author and apparently a YouTube megastar now. When he started his channel about a year ago, he put up like one. Yes.
I just wanted to see what that would do. Let's go ahead.
High five, buddy. High five. That was
awesome. Oh my God.
I think back to all the days when I used to be young and free. I remember her like it was yesterday. She was so beautiful to me. In my mind sometimes I'll run away, trying to stop back in history. She reminds me of the summertime, way back in 2003. Hey, she was a cutie in a sundress. I told her I just had to confess, I got a crush on you, darling. Them long
You got to get a grip on it sometimes, man. That was good. That was good. That was really good, brother. Sasquatch approves.
I mean, you totally went into a short, I don't know what that was, just because you were laughing so hard. So kudos. Yay, ATL. High five.
Dude, I'm proud of you. That's definitely going to be a short. You got me good. That was good. That was good. That had a chocolatey flavor with a little bit of slip to it.
I was like in shock for a second. I was like, he's really raising his hand, right?
He did.
I was like, holy
he raised his hand, and I was like, And like I thought in my head, this motherfucker didn't just raise his hand. So I stopped.
Guys, you know what it is, and I think we all really know it's a problem is here. Is the way Lady treated me is turning me into a different person.
All right, so what I'm saying
I mean, I haven't been hurt like that since AJ insulted my piano play.
Oh Lord, hello, Cat.
You
Welcome
think I
to the
can let
show.
that shit go?
I don't care what you do with it, dude. You can roll it up, put it in your pocket, carry it off with you. You can take it, roll it up in your feelings, and see whether or not it helps. You can sleep with it at night and snuggle with it like a pacifier. Call it your binky.
Which brings me to an interesting topic. I just want to bring this up briefly. The other day, I had my dog with me. He's a service dog. And I walked into Dairy Queen with him. And the lady says, you need to go outside with your dog. I was like, no, he's a service dog. And, I don't carry the traditional vest on him. I mean, he's registered and everything. There's no doubt. He's literally a service dog.
Is there any identification that he's a service animal?
No, and all that's required by law is you're allowed to ask a person with a dog, is that a service dog? And then you answer yes or no. And then you're allowed to ask, what do you use it for? And I tell them walking. That's the law. You don't need to have a vest on. You don't need to make them do tricks or anything. That's
you are
it.
correct. You are
That's
correct.
it.
Mm-hmm.
You are correct.
So, I hit her with, and I wanted to try a different style here because normally I just go into a spew about the law. I told her, do you know how that made me feel when you asked me to leave the restaurant because I had a service dog? I said, do you know how that made me feel? And she ended up apologizing for it.
Wait a second. Hold on now. I didn't know you had feelings. When did you get those installed?
Well,
I don't know, but they've been
like this.
full-fledged lately.
It's kind of like this,
I got you. Okay, bud. All right. So let me get back.
I'm ringing the wrong bells to get attention.
I'll buy that. You might
might
be going to the wrong rooms for the wrong subjects.
So I'm trying something different.
It kind of looks like, yeah. We got Press Harder in here. Good to see you, bud. Probably just blew a bunch of people's eardrums out, but who am I to care? All right, so let me try to get this out real quick before we start up again. Check this out. This is Dan Davis. He's got a whole bunch of YouTube videos. He does all kinds of history stuff. He also writes a bunch of books. He does a whole bunch of really cool work. He's actually looked into he goes to the dig sites. He lays it out. So when you're reading the books, you're actually coming across actual digs. It's a really cool angle on historical generated fiction. You know what I mean? Like he takes actual situations and generates a fictional story based around a specific site and sometimes more. There's several things he's doing, but it's real cool. All right, go ahead, dude. You got the floor again. Go ahead.
No, it's not the first time you've shown that valley on your show.
No, he uses a group of stock footage. I don't know where from. But yeah, there's some duplicates in there, and I have hosted this when we did the history of horses back like almost a year ago. Mm-hmm. Good to know you remember it though. It's just this one.
Well, actually, you brought up this one when we were talking about the slice in India.
Right. The difference between North Indians and South Indians. Mm-hmm. The South Indian, I think they're called Dravidians.
You brought up this very same valley.
Yeah. Well, in this case, it's a particular Northern European valley that has a particularly rich lithic tradition documentation. So there's like 2 or 3 dozen sites in this one valley. So he's probably more of an expert on it than anything else. But I mean, like I said, he's mostly a fiction author, right? So that's kind of what he does.
Yeah, I don't want you to think I'm trying to take away from the richness of the photo and the history behind it. For my jest.
Welcome to the show, girl. Welcome over from which one is it, Scotland or Ireland? Are you one of those green people or otherwise? Fess up, girlie. Inquiring minds want to know.
You got someone else up here I don't know about?
No. Orb Puff popped up in the chat. There's a whole bunch of chat. Can you not see chat?
Yeah.
No, I
know,
can't.
Welcome in.
You can't see chat,
Invictus
can you?
Media is.
Yeah, we got Invictus. We got Press Harder. We got Spoken Auger.
Claiborne County. We got Four Corner.
Okay, so I'm not seeing all of them from your side, apparently.
I got nothing.
I got LA Spike, Press Harder, Jonathan Mazzilli, Jack Off.
Now I see something.
Omega.
They're all in there. Well, I see them on your StreamYard, so I don't know why you don't see them.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I got, all right, hey, Press Harder, Jack Off, Jacko.
And how
Jonathan?
I can tell they're in my room is there's like a little, almost looks like a paperclip kind of thing.
It's a link. It means it's coming from one of the two links over here. So both of y'all's have little links on them from y'all's, but mine don't on mine. And
I don't see his though.
Right. Only mine show up in my chat. So only the ones in my room will pop up on the screen under me.
Can I have Ajot do like a circle with her finger for me? I want to see what's happening with if I'm in mine or if I'm in your room. Could you do a circle?
You're in mine. All of this is in my room.
Yeah.
And
that didn't help me at all, but I did like seeing Ajot making that circle.
You just want to take control. I feel it. We're going to let this roll for about 10 minutes, and I'll come back in and we'll have a
No. Caucasian dude.
Yeah.
You got some of the most interesting topics, and I try to stay focused as much as I can. Sometimes it's a little hard for me.
One of those nights.
It might not be.
Yeah, but no, dude, and no one's going to take away the richness of your show.
Richness, dude. I sit around and watch YouTube videos all week, and I like them or I dislike them. And some of them are good enough. I send them to a certain folder that y'all can't see, and then I go through and thin them out every day. Every day,
I'm not used to seeing him in that surrounding. Usually, it's in the Echo room, and he's got
he's usually in front of the front door at the dining room, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I might have helped build some of those houses over there. Because when I saw your front door, I went, geez, that looks just like the place up there outside of Atlanta.
You're in mine, Vic.
I live in the same neighborhood as a couple of movies.
Now, I can do this.
Couple of movies?
Right?
Yeah.
So I can see all of y'all's chats over here on StreamYards, but it's only going to show up on my screen, on my OBS, if I would have to open up 3 different pop-out chats and link 3 different windows to it. Yep.
Can't you just show? Can't you show the chat of StreamYard?
I could use StreamYard, but it would be the bigger screen and would make this little tiny area that I've already got smaller. See what I'm saying? It'd make all of us small windows on the side for the chat to be up.
I know you can figure out.
Melvin, California. Melvinka. Is he Mountain Fresh? I don't think Melvins are Mountain Fresh. Melvins, that kind of gives me a eat your broccoli kind of feel. Eat your broccoli.
Number nine.
Which one's that? No Name Coder. Welcome to the show, bud. Good to see you.
Revolution, number 9.
At this point, I'm going to completely digress.
And from
you're kidding me. You don't know the song Revolution number 9?
The Aegean in Southeast Europe spread across the continent in 2 main waves, bringing a new way of life, new languages, beliefs, and social structures. Then around 3000 BC, another great change came, with the spread of steppe herders from their homelands on the Pontic steppe all the way to the furthest corners of Europe, heralding the beginning of the European Bronze Age. These 3 eras saw huge social, linguistic, and genetic changes, but perhaps the most dramatic differences are to be found in their approaches to food. Every day, the people of these societies dedicated themselves to procuring sufficient nutrition to, at a minimum, avoid starvation. But food meant much more than that. What they ate depended on what was available in their environment, what they grew or raised themselves, and what they traded for. The resources they utilized were dependent on their technology and their cultural traditions. So, what did prehistoric Europeans eat? This video is sponsored by HelloFresh. I've been using their service for weeks now
thought we
and
already
can
covered
highly
that
recommend
part.
it. The basic idea
I don't have
is they
anything
provide
particularly
delicious recipes
against
you make with
HelloFresh,
fresh,
but I've got a
wholesome
limited
ingredients
amount
on
of
the
time
menu.
to
To
do
find
these
recipes
things.
free, their ingredients travel from the
Wait.
video.
I think he does a whole chapter thing. That's cool. I need to learn to do the
The
chapter
Mesolithic
thing.
era saw hunter-fisher forager groups thriving right across the continent in a range of environments.
Were we supposed
You
to
might
understand
imagine these
anything you just
pre-farming
said?
societies roamed widely, leading a kind of
Only if necessary. Believe me, it will become obvious if needed. Yeah, no, it's just an ad, but they're sponsored, and I don't have an issue with that. But like I said, I only have a limited amount of time to do these shows, and I kind of got it pulled kind of tight tonight. I'm not gonna lie. I like it tight. That's my preferred method.
Hey.
Who put this video? Who put this video together?
Dan Davis. The link is pinned in chat.
Okay.
It's also in the description of the video and attached in various other places.
Does
Hey,
ever make it?
ATL.
Yeah.
What does a male seal and Tupperware have in common?
Well, seal.
A male seal and Tupperware.
Then you know what? You know what comes to my mind? They both
What?
make seals.
They both like a tight seal.
But
of rootless.
Coming from my background,
Really speak.
it's so surprising to me that a woman talks like that.
Why?
And I don't mean that in a bad way.
Oh.
I don't think there's a good way to say that.
Yeah, so I just said it.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
it's just surprising to me. It's not my stock.
okay.
But I'm not
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I'm slightly aroused.
yeah, all right. But
So is this one your cup of tea? How do you make a fruit punch?
a fruit punch.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Give it boxing lessons.
But
No.
All right. I think you misunderstand. Now I had my cousin who is, a very religious, strict, honest young lady told me this joke. And I thought I was going to turn into dust when she told me this joke because it was just it was like the Big Bang. How do you make a little girl cry twice?
Oh, I don't know.
whoa. Hold on now. This is not exactly a family show, but don't say nothing on here that you're not saying on yours because it'll wipe all three of our channels.
You wipe your bloody blank on her teddy bear.
And you said you didn't expect my joke to come out of my mouth? Are you serious?
Hey, John. I don't know what it is. Maybe I have some kind of brain clot that stops me or throws all those bad things girls say out the window. Like I'm starting new every time. But I never expected. Isn't that something?
Yes, it's something. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Hold up. They changed everything and my layouts are different now. That's neat. I say I can make a custom layout, and that might be real neat. Two-Face Schmitty don't care. Do you know that?
Yep.
If you didn't know that, just so you know.
And I needed some brandy.
There's
a nice
Tyson.
tobacco pipe. And a piece of bread.
Oh, no. There you go. Welcome to the ATL show, folks. We just changed the program.
Go ahead.
You're good, dude. You got me tickled. I'm kind of terrified, actually.
No. Go ahead. Oh,
Sure. I don't want to
yeah, go
interrupt.
ahead.
You kind of got a good thing going there.
I know. Well, you notice that on a couple of my newest videos, I have the what is it? The thoughts of Jack Handy. It was a Saturday Night Live skit where it had Deep Thoughts by Jack Handy.
Does
anyone remember this?
Vaguely. I remember you uploading it, and I remember it triggering some memories, but I don't remember what the memories were. Probably, given the context, nothing I'd want to revisit.
Welcome in, Ghost Eagle.
Well, maybe that's why I didn't get a lot of views.
Smitty, how are you?
Yeah.
It's a nice bird.
Word needs to be replaced with most.
Bird. Bird is the word.
I don't understand.
What?
I'm so confused. There's so much going on over here that over here it's kind of lonely.
The word.
Like it's wild. There's like
That's a raspberry. That's a pear. Oh, was that a pear?
Probably.
Can you back it up a little bit?
I can.
No, we got to go forward.
No, we got to see if that was a pear, a peach, or an apple.
Oh my. Neither.
AJ,
Why
do you need to run around? Why do you need to run around so much?
What are you talking
Let's just
about?
see if it's a pear or a peach or something.
Okay.
And then we'll go ahead and look at the raspberries.
It appeared to be an
So
apple.
which one?
Apple.
No, it was before the raspberries. Before
You mean
that.
the blackberries?
Okay, all right. I didn't see a peach or a pear. It was
I
apple.
saw-
It was apple.
I saw an apple. I distinctly saw an apple.
We work together as a team. Now we can move forward.
Okay.
Yes,
I'm glad.
Guys.
All right. You promise? You promise?
Good work, guys.
Did you bring your chips?
No, I ate the pepperoni already too.
Oh. Well, it doesn't crunch. It's not the same.
No, not too much. I'm
All right.
staying away from crunchy things.
Raspberry.
Where's my stomach?
There's the blackberries.
Fruit species like blackberries, pears, apples, raspberries, and crowberries, and seeded plants like water lily that would surely have been prepared and eaten. One thing that does show up under the right conditions is hazelnut shells. Mesolithic people across Europe loved hazelnuts, and sites like Duvensee in northern Germany show clear evidence for intensive seasonal gathering and preparation at special hazelnut processing sites. They were roasted in batches in earth ovens. Heating the nuts destroys contaminants, improves the flavor, and extends the shelf life. Roasting them also made them easier to crack and grind. Discarding those shells and processing the nuts into flour or paste also reduced the weight and volume, making the food easier to transport. Several sites in Scotland show similar patterns of hazelnut gathering. One site on the island of Colonsay revealed a pit with 30 to 40,000 intact but charred hazelnuts, weighing 16 kilograms, along with lesser celandine tubers, crab apples, seeds, charcoal, and stone tools. It's not clear what this pit was, but one suggestion is it shows the disposal of an accidentally charred batch of nuts. They could have been roasting a total of between 120 and 330,000 hazelnuts here, one batch of which was ruined and disposed of. So a day or two of roasting these hundreds of thousands of hazelnuts could provide millions of calories. It was an incredibly important resource across temperate Europe. One thing everyone knows about Mesolithic foragers is that their economies were fundamentally different to the Neolithic farmers who replaced them. Hunter-gatherers did not manage plants and animals or change their environments in any way. Only that isn't really true. The domestication of plants and animals was a complex, very long-term process, and hunter-gatherer societies often used sophisticated systems of wild plant and animal management that didn't necessarily lead to domestication. Plant food management or husbandry can involve deliberate strategies designed to increase productivity and control over plant resources. For example,
So what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. I mean that's the paradox we're getting into here.
That last bit of coffee went down the wrong pipe, bud. It's trying to take me out. I'm gonna get killed by Starbucks.
But you know what discussion doesn't come down to the chicken or the egg?
Well, in this case, he's talking about the domestication of plants, and some plants simply lend themselves to domestication. Okay, Take the noble strawberry. In its natural state, it is a tiny, tasteless husk of little barren seeds that are virtually unpalatable. You'd have to carry, they're tiny, tiny things, and you'd have to pick bajillions of them to be able to actually get that's ATL's chair.
Come here. Is your cough getting better?
Obviously, I'm gonna die. Enjoy the show.
Protective plant tending, selective burning of woodland, weeding, and soil modification. It does not necessarily include sowing or planting of wild seeds, although perhaps they did that too. Finding evidence of intensive plant gathering and processing of foods like hazelnut, water chestnuts, and acorns cannot by itself tell us about potential management practices. So archaeologists use other methods like ancient pollen analysis to reconstruct prehistoric landscapes.
All right, so what I was getting at was this. Some plants lend themselves to domestication, things like raspberries, not strawberries. Strawberries, classically, reproduced by runners, and it's the second year strawberries that make the best strawberries. So it takes a good bit of future planning to make that work, right? Whereas grain, you can just store it and then plant it next spring. That works.
You need. Why don't you drink something?
All right, then.
Because certain plants, shrubs, and trees only grow in specific environments. Methods like these have shown woodlands at analyzed sites across Mesolithic Europe experienced periodic clearing of trees. Some sites show corresponding evidence of burning, and they can even tell when sites were kept clear of trees for extended periods, suggesting ongoing management. The advantages of managing woodland like this would include the propagation of edible species in the shrub layer, like hawthorn and especially hazel. Some researchers believe that they detect the spread of hazel woodland beyond the area of natural distribution. We therefore see Mesolithic people using what you could call proto-farming methods to create and manage wild hazelnut orchards for their ongoing seasonal exploitation. And amazing.
All right, so picture this. Somebody dies, and while they don't have maybe they do have a specific burial ritual, but it's not one that carries through to the modern era. We don't recognize it. However, it's more or less accepted that they would plant large old growth type trees in areas where burials were made. So today you come across little tiny like hazelnut forests in areas where previously there weren't hazelnuts. These forests were established by the original trees planted by the original hunter-gatherers coming through the area. What's up, Toe for Life? Good to see you, bud. Take the fig. The fig is probably the oldest domesticated anything ever. Even before we actually established living quarters, we had already affected the genetics of the fig because we took the fig from its natural environment directly into areas where it had zero to no competition and other areas where it had an immense amount of competition. And through this selective carrying process, the brown turkey fig, the celestial fig, the moonlight fig, and all the other types of figs out there have been generated not so much through the choosing of which figs to breed as much as it is choosing which figs survive. Right? So we propagate good figs and we cut down the bad ones. You're muted, bud. I'm sure you're trying to communicate, but I just don't understand.
Okay, so now what are you saying? Are you saying that the fruit was made for the man or the man was made for the fruit?
I think we made each other, specifically with the fig. And in most other lines, there is a distinct wild version that existed before.
So you're telling me that you're trying to condone parallel evolution?
Not just parallel, but more of a symbiotic evolution. Picture this: hunter-gatherers leave one area and they walk out to the edge of to the fig patch where the good figs grow, and they grab one of the little figs that's too small to make figs, and they pull it up and they stick it in a bag, put a little water on it, and they carry it 200 miles in an area where there are no figs next to an oasis, and they plop down this fig that he knows will grow a good fig, and then he continues on his journey. Maybe the fig lives, maybe the fig dies. If the fig lives, he will forever have a source of good figs at this oasis from now to the end of time.
So is your battle origins?
Well,
is that your nexus?
If I'm not mistaken, as far as when we've been able to determine, the fig originates in Middle Africa, the Congo region. That's the most base wild version we can find. And even it has some really weird double tandems in its gene code that looks sort of like selective breeding.
Well, I'm not talking about location here. I'm talking about time.
Well, yeah, see, that's where it comes down to being really weird. Previous to humanity, there were other creatures that ate figs. Something, birds, whatever, some other things. And these had effects on figs too. So are all of the beneficial effects of figs caused by human interaction? No. But massive amounts of it were, not so much from the selective breeding of it, but from the fact that we cared for the ones that were nutritious and good and tasty, and we did not care for the ones that were not. And so when we came across a stand of figs that weren't as good as these other figs over here, we would burn those and plant these. And we've been doing that for 500,000 years, maybe.
I don't know, because you know what? I've eaten things that tasted absolutely horrible.
That's not my fault. I can't control what you do when I'm not around.
When you're trying to say you have grasp on evolution here. And I'm not just talking biological. I'm talking about the evolution of existence. You saying you have a grasp?
You can't eat grass. Where's this going?
You're saying you have a grasp?
A grasp? No, I'm stating that the paleontological record, the actual fossil record we have of figs, the physical fossils we can dig up, the most basal fig we can find comes from the Congo region in Africa, is basal from about 2 million years ago.
Did you see that fossil?
Let me finish the sentence.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm going to mute myself. Go ahead.
Davis, Melissa, hello.
Yeah, welcome. Army Vet 420, Smoking Auditor, Jack of Jack Omega, Jack off Jack, right? Jack off Jack. Oh, Walter Davis, good to see you, bud. All right, so what I'm saying is I don't think it's a coincidence that the explosion of the fig speciation event coincided with the range of humanity in the same time period. I think these two things are very closely related, and you can track it through the development of the different types of figs that exist. The farther away from Africa you get physically up until the modern era, the more derived the fig species were. You would have the brown turkey fig in the Levant. You would turn around and have the honey crisp fig in the Western China, and then you'd have the that weird blue dark one in Eastern China, and then you've got the Japanese figs, and these are all further and further derived away from the original wild species, which we don't actually have.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's
Caucasian. What is your fixation with figs right now?
Dude, figs are one of the most interesting food sources ever derived by the hand of man.
And they're delicious as hell, too.
Yes. It's because we took an active interest in eating figs that they are delicious.
I've never had
how many old Italians out there don't have a fig tree in their side yard?
Exactly. Dude, I have one of the greatest fig trees I've ever come across. Back in the mid-90s, I came across a group of refugees coming from Florida, and they had a whole bunch of fig trees in little cups. And they had a flat tire. They didn't speak probably 10 words of English. And my mom stopped and I got out, changed their tire, and they talked in whatever Cantonese or Vietnamese or whatever language it was they were talking in. And I didn't understand any of that crap. But they insisted that we take this fig tree, a little bitty tiny thing. It was in a little solo cup, right? She kept telling me it was very special. So we took it home and we planted it, you know, where we had previously had a fig tree. And for 15 years, this thing was a freaking stick. Did nothing. So we moved it to another location where it produced a single fig. That was the most delicious thing I'd ever put my lips around, dude. This thing is amazing. So then I built a mini greenhouse to put this thing in, and now it has eaten half of my father's shed. This thing is gargantuan. Like, is when it got big enough to survive a good ice frost, it was no longer locked in.
Yeah, see, that's the thing there. I would never. I mean, a fig. It's the bad thing about it. You have to take them in every winter.
Oh, not well. This this one is.
Are you far enough south to leave them out?
This one barely. A brown turkey fig does fine around here, but what this turned out being a celestial fig, sometimes called a honey crisp, I think, fig. These are typically grown a little further south, but I was able to get it big enough that it can survive a pretty stout freeze.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, you don't get bad winters where you are.
This past year, it froze about an inch thick on my aquaponics. Shut the whole system down. It all fell safe like it was supposed to.
I'm still trying to figure out why you got fixated on figs, though.
Well, it's one of the things that he doesn't point out.
We'll get back to that later.
You really want me to break?
What's going on with this bear on your screen?
Talk. We're gonna look
with that bear.
They didn't only manage resources. Where landscapes were.
See the motherfucking bear. You see the bear. You see the bear. You see the bear edge out. There's a fucking bear on the screen.
A favorite example of this is the possibility that the land snail, Capia nemoralis, was transported from Iberia to Ireland during the Mesolithic.
Welcome in,
There is
Midwest.
genetic evidence that for some researchers suggests Mesolithic foragers were managing or farming land snails for food.
Hey, New York Outcast.
A
Welcome to the
practice
show,
which
bud.
started in Iberia
Midwest Accountability.
and was
Good to see
carried
you.
over the generations all the way to Ireland. But Mesolithic people did not only introduce small animals to new environments. After the last glacial maximum, the retreat of glaciers, and the rise of sea levels, many islands from the Atlantic to the Mediterranean were left without certain animal species. Using archaeological and genetic evidence, researchers can tell when various
that's
species.
tales told in the dark. Hey, check. I sent you an email. Just send me a script, yo. I'll read it. It might help if I had like the feel of it to know what to do with it, because there's a few different.
Where does the olive? Where does the olive feed in here?
What the hell did he say?
An olive.
An olive. Okay, no, that's actually a very good point. Olives is another one of those that are they're selectively groomed, right? You prune olives back, and when you come across an olive that doesn't make proper olives, you cut it out and burn it, and you propagate good olives and only good olives. Same thing with the fig, but the figs are productive over a few years, whereas it can take an olive tree 20 years to develop a good crop of olives.
Bingo. That's why you're there.
Very long form.
That's so important to know.
Right.
You know, out of the whole conversation that we're gonna have, that right there is such an important piece of information.
Thanks. I'm glad it meets your approval. All right. So, yeah.
Were then intentionally introduced.
I'm talking about the olive tree. All right.
This
I'm going to explain myself.
In many places like Ireland, where they
I
were.
have to talk over this.
Go ahead. I dig it. The olive tree is a very important point in human history as well.
What was brought back to the ark?
You're correct. Exactly correct. That's not a small.
Why was that important? That was an olive.
Well, whenever they covered themselves in the Garden of Eden, they used a fig leaf. So
listen, it takes so long for the olive tree to grow its fruit and everything else. He just got an olive branch that was fruited. So he knew that there was land that was cultivatable.
Right. And the reason
for long periods
is olives can survive long periods flooded. Specifically, these
that goes into a different topic, though, doesn't it?
Kind of, but not really, because think about it. People are cultured to come through river valleys, to use rivers as highways. It's not a barrier; it's a way further inland. It's a source of food and a source of motivation. You can actually move up and down a river easier than you can across open land.
Is an olive tree? Is it an olive tree aquatic? Does it live underwater?
No, actually, most of them that are cultivated today live in arid regions, but those regions weren't always arid.
So how do you get 40 days and 40 nights and you get an olive branch?
Because it didn't kill them from drowning them. They can survive periods underwater as long as their roots remain solid in the ground, and it's not seawater for the most part. And if you're talking about a global flood, we're going to talk about dropping the salinity of that seawater quite a bit there, bud, because Everest is quite a ways up yonder. Jody Who. Jody Who. I like that. That's fun to say.
Welcome in, Farland.
That's worth a discussion right there.
Freaking
That's all I got to say about that.
All right.
Amazingly, it seems that brown bears were also introduced by people to Ireland. We are forced to imagine how this was done. Presumably, juvenile animals were taken, after their mothers were killed, by canoe to these islands and were then released to breed and found populations that could be hunted and eaten. Wild boar were also introduced to multiple islands in the Aegean during the Mesolithic. The Aegean is also the location where the first farmers of Europe began their long process of spreading throughout the continent, bringing with them a host of domesticated plants and animals, and changing the landscape of Europe forever. So what did the Neolithic farmers eat?
So this part almost directly mimics the stories from the Bible. They talk about basically two different cultures, two different tribes who developed in the same general area. One tribe takes on the activity of rearing animals, animal husbandry, herding, that type of stuff. Whereas the other tribes take on the actual physical tilling of the ground and the domestication of open grains, right? These two cultures mix and mash. One, I can't remember the names of the specific names of the cultures, but Beaker Linear A or something like that. Anyway, these two cultures kind of mismatch a little bit, but there's not really a defining point where it goes from being exclusively farming and herding, specifically herding animals and light hunter-gatherer activities while moving along with the herds, right? To a more sedentary farming life where you bring the herd animals into the farm as part of the farm activity in a sedentary life, where you're no longer doing any of the hunter-gatherer stuff on the open plains, right? On the open range. What's up, Danny's Thoughts? Good to see you, bud. You get what I'm saying? A third culture developed from the mix of these two cultures that can't quite be defined by either one. They took benefits from herd animals and dung burning and all of that stuff, and they mixed it with the benefits of sedentary farming and actual farming practices with crop rotation and selective breeding in plants. These two concepts mesh fairly well together, given that the animals typically eat things that people can't eat. That's why you feed the slop to the hogs. Freaky Geek, welcome to the show. So what do you think about that tidbit there?
Yeah.
I just get a fuzzy nod. Okay. That's all right.
Well, I was hoping AJ might take the spotlight and give us some of her ideas.
You have met her before, right?
I know.
Nothing about nothing.
Well, the first time I met AJ was on your show, and her background was like a celestial background of symbols, like zodiac symbols and things like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And she pretty much sat through the whole show silent. And I asked at the end of the show, you know, I would like to hear from the lady in the box above, I said. And then she actually started speaking. And that's before she used to smile. Because she had more orangey hair, I think, or was it red? I can't remember that. But she never smiled, and now she smiled a lot, and that's awesome.
Well, I'm smiling, but don't have much to say on this topic. So
that's cool.
I don't care. You're smiling. That's good for me.
Freaky Geek, welcome to the show, bud. Danny's thoughts. I'd love to see some of those videos. I'm gonna hunt up your link. You know how I be. We're definitely gonna do it. If you feed it to the pigs and later eat the pigs, you eventually eat what you feed them. That is exactly true. So farming does lend itself to animal husbandry to an extent. It depends on what you're farming. Like people who are farming things like corn, like actual maize, these people have a lot of extra plant matter that's just sitting around doing absolutely nothing. You run it through a cow and you get free fertilizer and free cow. Bonus. Run it through a pig, you get free fertilizer and free pig. Mm-hmm. Run it through a horse, you get free work done. And if you're really hard up, you could eat some horse.
Well, New York Outcast said he has another take on that.
Okay.
The horse, you got to wait. You can't really use that.
Well, I mean, some people just don't do the swine, man. I mean, I can respect that type of stuff. If you don't do swine, that's with you. Does that count a peccary though? I mean, I don't know if that's actually a pig.
The old Italians used to eat the horse meat raw with the blood sauce, the tartare.
That is true, Walter. That is absolutely true. Pigs.
I remember as a kid being around the old Italians.
Let me tell you a little story about something that happened to old Sasquatch. Sitting around one afternoon when a random couple of pot-bellied pigs wandered up in my yard, and I thought, man, I like bacon. So I went and got me a bucket of food and rattled it, and the mama pig comes running over, and I'm like, shoot, she's been domesticated. Wow. So I went and set up the old pig pen. Walked out there, threw the food on the ground. Pigs walked in. I shut the door, turned on the water. We used to breed pigs. We've got all the shit to do it with. We just didn't have any pigs at the time. So turn them loose and let them in, right? Fast forward 6 months. It's 114 degrees. I wake up at like freaking 3 o'clock in the afternoon because I was working night shift. So like I come in at 8 a.m., take a nap, and wake up at 3. Nobody's watered the pigs. Nobody's fed the pigs. I got to go out and do that stuff. And so I'll wake up straight out of bed, walk out the door, get down there and hit the ground like a sack of salt. Heat stroke. Don't even remember getting to the bottom of the hill. My next conscious memory is wondering why my nuts were wet because I had peed myself and why I'd been struck by lightning because obviously something had happened. My pops is sitting there going, son, are you all right? My wife, my current wife's sitting there going, you need to go to the hospital. Your ass was dead when I found you. Apparently, Wife Squatch had gone down there, pulled a big girl panties up, put me on her shoulder, and carried me back up to the house, and then splashed cold water on my nuts to wake me up. She said she figured if anything would do it, it would be that. So, blam. I wake up, look around like what's going on, and it took me a while to remember the word camera afterwards. Took a minute. But that heat ain't no joke. Turned out one of my shoes had been eaten by the pigs. That's how close I got to being eaten by my own pigs.
Wow.
They got one shoe. Thank God for Wife Squatch. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Pigs are another really good argument for the distinction between grass farmers versus animal farmers, because pigs are one of those things that has been molded by our activity through selective carrying. We carried very limited number of pigs. We would take piglets from one area to another, but we only took the best ones. And so the farther west you get, the farther east you get, the bigger and more dynamic the pig types become. So Africa has basic warthogs and feral pigs and the types of stuff you're used to seeing, Russian boars, that European boars, that kind of stuff, right? Whereas Eastern Asia has Vietnamese pot-bellied pigs, those great big smoker lunkers. I don't even know what they're called. They're ginormous. You know the ones that got the big floppy ears. You know the ones I'm talking about. You don't even see them walking around. They're always under a big-ass pile of piglets. You know what I'm talking about. Don't play with me. Fig pigs, right? That sounds good, man. We raise up the fig old figs. Hey, you know the Iberian, what is it? There's a type of a specific breed of Iberian pig that is used, that is fed a specific type of acorn found in Iberia, right? Now, I'm pretty sure you know where Iberia is. Do you know what I'm talking about, Ajot? Any clue?
No.
No, Spain.
Oh.
That whole region there, you know, the Iberian Peninsula. All right, so these people feed their pigs nothing. What's up, M's Mad World? Good to see you. Four corner fist in the air. Fist in the air. Yeah, okay. That's cool. Good one, actually.
Free side.
Free side. Oh yeah, baby. But yeah, no, they make a specific type of bacon and ham from these pigs that are fed a specific type of acorn. White acorns with a low tannin content. These people have been cultivating the trees in this area for 4,000 years. The trees to feed the pigs because it's so good. Thank you, Varlap. That's lovely.
There were between 200 and 450 wild edible plant species in European temperate and Mediterranean regions, including green leafy plants, seaweed, roots and rhizomes, nuts, grass seeds, and fruits. Many of these plants were concentrated in wetland habitats, lake shores, and along the coasts.
I think we already saw the raspberries.
The forager groups who lived there.
Stock footage, bud.
The Neolithic in Europe is characterized by the introduction of plant cultivation and animal husbandry as the foundational economic activities. It also represents a marked narrowing of the breadth of the diet to a focus on a handful of domesticated cereals and pulses and a few domesticated animals like sheep, goat, cattle, and pigs. The effect this had on the populations living like this meant the people individually tended to be less healthy than the hunter foragers. They were shorter and suffered more diseases.
What happened down by you?
But this lifestyle meant the production of greater food.
When?
What are you talking about?
Who?
What happened down by you?
Where?
I just found a lot of dead people.
What?
Just found them? Just laying around.
And you're close to Uvalde, right?
It sounds like Texas.
I'm like 80 miles from Uvalde.
Okay, so there was a couple of train cars filled with immigrants?
Oh, there was a train cart filled with 12 immigrants. Yes, two of them were dead on site, and then I don't know. I know 5 of them went to local hospitals. There were 4 of those, I think, were like serious or critical condition. So 2 died, 4 were in serious critical condition, and then the rest, they were all didn't have stats on them, but everybody went to the hospital.
Did you is that out of your expertise to go video something like that? Or
why would you go to somewhere that killed a whole bunch of people?
No, it's just, I mean, it's over an hour drive. I mean, something like that. Yeah. And then they ended up shutting the highway down for like 2 hours so the medical helicopters could land. So
that would have been really interesting to.
Had it been closer, I would have.
You know, those old tank pads really come in handy sometimes.
I mean, I don't care if you're, what your thoughts are or feelings about immigrants, but they're still people.
That's
You know
fucked
what
up.
I'm saying?
I mean, I'm not an expert at all, but that's fucked up.
What's fucked up?
Locking folks up in a goddamn train car, letting them die.
I don't know
Yeah.
that somebody locked them up. I mean, they probably, got up in there and, some people
Well,
don't
it's
realize
not
that once you
locked, it's-
shut that door, you know what I mean? It's locked.
Right. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Somebody closed the door, which locked them up.
But I mean, if they're
and open it from the inside.
what is it called? Train hop. I don't know. Anyway, if they're illegally getting on the train anyway, you know what I'm saying? Like,
What does it matter?
I'm
What
not
I'm
sure.
saying is maybe, a couple of things could have happened. They could have got on the train and then, didn't shut the door all the way. And then maybe something happened and the door got shut all the way. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that someone put them in there and shut the door is all I'm saying.
It's whose name?
I don't know.
You say my name?
Here's no
You don't know?
Yeet, 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 yeet. I don't know how that goes.
Say my name. Say my
Say my
name.
name.
No, I would hope that it was an innocent accident. That's for sure.
Actually, Ajot, that actually segues pretty well into my second part of the show. What you were talking about them getting trapped in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a completely different way somebody can get trapped in a train car that doesn't have anything to do with doors being shut. If you store things inappropriately, you can cause real problems with breathing the gases that they off gas, specifically potatoes. Did you know that potatoes are lethal?
Oh yeah, when they rot, yeah.
Potatoes are lethal?
Potatoes. The humble potato carries one of the most deadly types of chemicals in its green leafy parts. But if you take a potato that has been harvested properly and then you improperly store it in a non-ventilated area, it starts growing those little green tendrils on it. Everybody's had that happen. You let the potato down there, it's a little too long. Green stuff started growing out of it. But they also start to decompose. And there is a chemical inside that is found, exactly, Cat gets it, in the deadly nightshade along with a few other vegetables, tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants, and a couple others are all derived from the nightshade family. And all of these contain a certain amount of alkaloids that are deadly to the human condition. But we eat them. We have selectively bred the fruits to be non-lethal.
Yeah, I mean, you feed a tomato to a horse, you'll kill it.
Could. Like a pea. Anyway, so if you take a bunch of potatoes and you stick them in a cellar, you can conceivably create a condition that puts so much carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, methane, and various other gases in the air as to deoxygenate the air completely, right? But also with specifically potatoes, these nightshade chemicals come into effect. And when you breathe this stuff in, it's literally like having your brain stem detached from your brain chemically. This stops running this. And so you stop breathing, you stop blinking, you stop everything else.
I think it's like a white mist too.
Check this out.
It's not an invisible odor. It's an actual
This
thing.
is no, it has a funk to it. It does. It's true. But the thing is if you store it in a basement that you never go into, all of these chemicals are heavier than air. So even in a gaseous state, you wouldn't necessarily notice it if you lived in it. It'd just be kind of a funky odor coming from the basement, right? Where's it at? This guy, Brew. He does some of the best little micro documentaries that you could possibly ask for. He covers all kinds of stuff, and he does these little animations to go with them to kind of explain.
My.
They're cool. What it is? Yes, no, maybe.
What? What'd you say?
Who? Where?
Are you going to play it?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
I'm playing with other buttons.
You know, M's making fun of me.
Down toward the horizon, past the rows of trees,
As
the
is her right,
Chelisheva
y'all
family
co-guests.
prepares to make dinner. It seems that tonight is the same as any other night, but it's the last night that 8-year-old Maria Chelisheva can expect to see her family alive again. Maria Chelesheva watches her father descend into their home's root cellar to grab some potatoes for dinner. He does not return, and Maria's mother descends after him to discover what's taking so long. Neither parent reemerged from the depths of the house, so Maria's brother went in after them. He did not return, so finally, Maria's grandmother trekked down into the darkness. In the end, Maria was forced to sink down into the gloom to find her entire family dead at the bottom. What could have taken their lives, one by one, down at the bottom of that root cellar? What terrible, eldritch power was waiting for them in the shadows?
So they didn't eat it? It was the gases that killed them?
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. So you store potatoes inappropriately. When you get down into the gas, one breath of the strictla, there's a particular chemical.
You can bring
And
ATL back up.
Is he backstage?
Oh, he left?
He left entirely, babe.
Oh, I thought you put him back.
I wouldn't do that. No, man. It ain't even like that. I hope he doesn't think I kicked him out. That wasn't the case. He's going to show up in your chat. Watch this. And apparently I'm still streaming to his stream. That's cool. We call that.
I told him to wait.
Is that what happened? Oh,
yeah,
no.
He goes, and I was like, wait till the end of the video, but whatever.
Come on. You can't be that. Okay, no. I once called a man a sensitive boy and got chewed out for 45 minutes for it. I don't plan on having that problem with ATL.
All right, ATL. Why did the cookie go to the doctor, ATL? Why did the cookie go to the doctor?
Just they make this hold up.
It felt crummy.
Okay.
Chelesheva, a town in the Republic of Tatarstan, where the Russian Volga and the Kama rivers meet. 8-year-old girl, Maria Chelesheva, was sitting in her family's kitchen with her mother, father, brother, and grandmother while everyone pitched in to help with dinner. Like many others in the area, they had a root cellar attached to their home. So Maria's father, Mikhail, a 42-year-old law professor at Kazan Federal University, left his family to go grab some things from below. Some time passed, but Mikhail hadn't returned. Confused why her husband was taking so much time down there, Maria's mother, Anastasia, age 38, went down looking for him. More time passed, but neither Mikhail nor Anastasia returned. Growing more confused and concerned, Maria's 18-year-old brother, Georgie, descended down into the root cellar to look for his parents. Again, no one returned, and fearing the worst, Maria's 68-year-old grandmother, Iraida, called their neighbor to tell them that something strange and suspicious was happening. Worried about her family, her grandmother couldn't wait for help and went down into the cellar too, never to return. Now alone, Maria sat in her family's kitchen trying to figure out what to do. Should she go down into the cellar too? Maybe it was all a trick, and her family was just waiting down there to scare her. The 8-year-old, fearing the worst, bravely ventured from the safety of her family's kitchen. When she came to the door to the cellar, she saw that it was left open. A putrid, dead smell emanated from within. When Maria peered into the cellar,
that's a good point, man. You ever smelt some off taters? Like that went south of cheddar?
Not like that.
All right. So I used to work. All right. Ooh. So I used to work for this slumlord, for lack of a better term. And every now and then you'd have people who wouldn't pay their bills. And after like a couple of months, you'd have to go over there and move them out. And,
the fridge.
All right. So check this out. No. I had this dude who had been in he was in like Bosnia or something, and he had his sinuses burned out by some chemical weapon or another. Man could smell nothing. So when I had a bad fridge, I'd just call him up and give him $50. He'd come deal with it. He couldn't smell nothing, man.
Right.
He'd go in there with a freaking brush, scrub the whole thing out, man. It was Done well. You get it back, couldn't even tell it had an entire dead horse in it. No idea. He even had some way to get rid of the smell in the actual ventilation, but I had no idea how he did it. It was magic as far as I was concerned, and well worth the $50 a fridge. That came out of my paycheck because I wasn't messing with it. But everything else I had to deal with. And while I came across a bunch of really questionable, sketchy ass shit, the most disgusting thing I ever encountered was a bag of potatoes that had been kept under a bathroom sink. Honey, oh my God. First of all, the potatoes attracted roaches. The gas killed the roaches. They accumulated around the potatoes. So it wasn't just a potato stench going on. There was a German cockroach horse rotting under that thing. It was absolutely freaking amazing. I cracked that door open and turned and walked away. Called up Eddie, was like, dude, you need to come get this refrigerator. He came, walked straight in, got the refrigerator, and then he walked over to the bathroom, pushed the door open, and said, man, this room makes my nose tickle. I wouldn't go in there if you, and when he pushed the door open, I was standing at the front door and barfed. He come walking out just to tell me not to go in the bathroom because it made his nose tickle.
Yeah. And not being able to smell it, but it made it.
As far as I know, he hasn't smelled anything since he left Eastern Europe. So, you know.
So that's the thing, Walter Davis. They didn't eat it. They died just from the smell. From the gas.
They just walked into the gas. All right. So the late 20s, we developed the ability to build buildings that could hold carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is heavier than air, and you can use dry ice to make a reservoir of carbon dioxide to off-place oxygen from a given structure. It doesn't even have to be terribly well sealed, just well enough to keep it from having oxygen in it, right? So back in the mid-20s, with the development of dry ice, people started storing apples in carbon bins. Now, this was pioneered by a guy, I think he was in New York, and he had the best apples in the country. People would come from miles around to come get his hand-picked apples to make their apple pies for all the competitions and stuff, right? Oh, wow. Oh, boy, that's hardcore, son. I had to deal with a few of those. Those deep freezers are rough, son. So there was this rule that this man had who had started using this method of keeping his apples fresh, where he did not let anyone hand pick apples but himself. He had his hand selected apples that he kept over here in this barn, and all the rest were kept in the big bushel piles over yonder. If any of the workers were called in and wanted some special apples, you could go out and pick through all the bushels and give them the best apples you find. But you cannot use the apples that are in my special barn. Do not go in there. It was padlocked. It was sealed up, and he had direct orders to every single person on the property. Never, ever, ever go into that barn. He didn't explain why. But year after year, his apples made the prize-winning apple pies in all of the surrounding counties. The specific apples that he hand-picked and stored and went in individually himself to hand-pick would win every prize. Every time. With nobody knowing where the apples came from till afterwards. The reason was he used carbon dioxide to keep his apples from going bad. By off-gassing all the oxygen, there's nothing in there that could. But in order to handpick the apples, he would hyperventilate a little bit, hold his breath, go into the thing in the deadly carbon dioxide, and hold his breath till he had picked the apples he wanted and come back up. He might go down 2 or 3 times to get enough apples for an apple pie for a particular customer. No one else was permitted to do this from that building, but he never told anyone why. 4 people died one afternoon when one tried to climb in and go get him some really good apples, and he just fell to the bottom of the ladder, and the other guy leaned over and fell in behind him. And the guy that was standing up stuck his head over the edge, got one breath full of carbon dioxide, and fell right in the hole with him. The last guy came out alive and died later. This stuff is seriously deadly, and that was just carbon dioxide. That's not including the nightshade chemicals that we're going to be talking about here in just a minute. Imagine it. You went to work this morning, now you're dead. You just want an apple. That's all. They just wanted a tater.
Mm-mm.
She saw something that would shake grown men to their very core. Sprawled across the floor of the cellar, she found the bodies of her father, mother, brother, and grandmother. By the time the authorities arrived, it was too late, and any chance that Maria's family could be saved had passed. She had gone from being the youngest in a family of 5 to being the sole survivor. It's a tragic story, but it also brings up questions. What happened to the Chelesheva family down in the root cellar? Was there something sinister waiting down there in the dark dampness of the cold ground? Something as simple and innocuous as potatoes are to blame. Now, I hear you asking, Brew, how could potatoes cause such a tragedy? But you'll be surprised to know that this isn't the first or only time that potatoes have taken lives. Glasgow, Scotland, 1918. 61 people from 18 separate households fell ill after eating a bad batch of potatoes. The day after, a 5-year-old boy died by strangulation of his bowel due to his retching and vomiting. In 1925, a family of 7 were poisoned by potatoes, killing 2 of them.
He's going to explain the chemical that does all of this in a minute. But keep in mind, these people ate bad potatoes. They consumed it, right? The family we're talking about did nothing but walk downstairs.
The famous Spud Killer.
The famous Spud Killer. The Death Tater.
According to medical notes, they experienced vomiting, exhaustion, and trouble breathing before they lost consciousness, passing away shortly after. In North Korea, 1952, facing starvation due to rampant famine, whole villages of people had no choice but to eat rotting potatoes. According to the British Medical Journal, 382 people were affected in one area alone. 52 people ended up hospitalized, and some of the most intense cases saw individuals dying of heart failure within 24 hours of eating a rotting potato. 22 people ended up dying, and even those among them with less severe symptoms, such as irregular pulse, enlargement of the heart, and bluing lips, died within 10 days of eating rotten potatoes. And again, in 1979, at a South London boys' school, 78 students and a number of staff fell ill simultaneously without warning. They complained of abdominal pain, diarrhea, vomiting, and for some severe cases, depression of the central nervous system, which controls your involuntary bodily processes, like your heartbeat, your breathing, and even your blinking. CNS depression, in its most severe forms, can cause memory loss, slowed heart rate, and slowed breathing, among other symptoms. Some of the students fell into comas and had episodes.
Do y'all remember the guy who went off to like Oregon or somewhere and ended up dying in a school bus up there, basically from starvation? It turns out that what actually killed him was not so much starvation as it was a type of poisoning caused by this same type of chemical, because what he was subsisting on in that bus for like months was something called seed potatoes. And depending on how much sunlight a seed potato gets, determine how much of this deadly chemical is actually in the potato itself. This is the reason why, just to be safe, you peel your potatoes. Because when you see a slightly green skinned potato, there is a higher level of this alkaloid in that. But it's not, you'd have to eat several pounds, I think, of skins to have any effect from this, unless the potato goes bad. Right? So, careful.
Some convulsive twitching. Fortunately, 5 days after the outbreak, all of the students recovered, although some of them hallucinated for days after recovery. After the students recovered, investigators traced the source of the illness to a bag of old potatoes left over from the previous summer. Either by ignorance or apathy, they were mistakenly inserted into the school's automatic peeling machine and then served to the staff and students. Now, there is a big difference between these cases and the story of the Chelesheva family. Specifically, none of Maria's family actually ate any potatoes. So, what actually happened down in that cellar? Potatoes, while delicious boiled, mashed, or stuck in a stew, can become incredibly toxic if they're improperly stored. It's because, believe it or not, potatoes are actually a variant of nightshade. Members of the Solanaceae family of plants include tomatoes, eggplant, peppers, tobacco, goji berries, and even petunias. But the family may be most known by its most dangerous species, deadly nightshade. If deadly nightshade sounds familiar to some of you, it's probably because you've heard it mentioned in movies and books. It appears in Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, used as a poison to incapacitate mad scientist Dr. Finkelstein. The plant is also used multiple times in Game of Thrones as a sleeping aid, and as a poison to execute one particular individual in Season 7. Nightshade plants are unique because they contain small levels of a substance called alkaloid. Alkaloids are any type of base, as in the opposite of acid, that contains nitrogen. They can be used for a variety of things. For example, the painkiller morphine, the malaria drug quinine, and the poison strychnine all use alkaloids in some form. Now, the problem with nightshades is that the alkaloids that they contain are, well,
Hold up. All right, so I got this theory about strychnine and Alexander the Great's death. I don't believe he was murdered. I believe it was suicide and he killed himself, and he used his third wife's knowledge of the strychnine tree. I can't remember, the Buddhist tree or whatever, the contemplation tree. I can't remember what they call it. Anyway, there's a particular type of tree from India that has an amazing amount of strychnine in it. And the description of his malady that he suffered marks very well with 2 rounds of strychnine poisoning. All right, that's all I got.
Usually bad for us. The problem for the Cheliceraceae family, and our other cases, comes down to an alkaloid in nightshade plants called solanine. Nightshade plants create solanine as an insecticide to protect themselves during their growth, which can wreak havoc in our own bodies. Eating too much solanine can trigger all of the symptoms mentioned earlier, including vomiting, diarrhea, headaches, paralysis of the central nervous system, and, in really severe cases, coma and death. A 200-pound person would need to eat around 20 pounds of fresh potatoes to poison themselves. But if a potato has gone bad, well, that can increase the levels of solanine up to 10 times. So just 2 pounds of rotten potatoes could have enough solanine to get you. And consider this. A large baked potato weighs around 1 pound. Just some food for thought. But what does solanine actually do inside your body? The exact mechanisms of how solanine poisons us isn't entirely clear to even the most well-educated of experts. The main theory, however, is that solanine opens up PT channels in cell membranes, lowering their membrane potential, the negative or positive electrical charge of the cell, which leads to a calcium ion buildup inside the cell, triggering the mechanism for apoptosis. Okay, now that's a lot of really...
I love it. That was great. But that was some really good gibberish there, some good old-fashioned doctor gibberish, what it sounded like to me. But you go inside the store doctoring. Be a doctor. You want to play doctor?
Doctor?
Play doctor. We'll check your heartbeat. See if your pulse is good. Oh, yeah. We'll do it just that way. Something wrong with us.
Complicated science words, but bear with me for a second. What that means in very basic terms is that by lowering the electrical charge of a cell, solanine forces it to pull in too many positively charged calcium ions, which turns on the cell's self-destruct mechanism, otherwise known as apoptosis. So the more solanine you consume, the faster and more widespread the cellular damage can be. But this still doesn't explain what actually happened down in that root cellar. Since potatoes are root veggies, the part that we eat is the root, not the leafy parts, exposure to light will trigger their growth, which increases the level of chlorophyll and solanine, turning the potato green and mean. Many people store their potatoes in boxes at the bottoms of their pantry, tucked away in bowls and cupboards, or at the darkest corners of the spookiest root cellars to keep them fresh longer. Now, the problem with root cellars is ventilation. If a potato rots, some of that solanine will start leaking out in a gaseous form. the longer rotten potatoes are left in a place with
Oh, bother. I wonder how much I just lost. Hold on, I know
stagnant
what it
air,
is.
the more
I know what it is.
solanine gas can build up.
Oh, it's about that time.
So, as Maria's father entered
Uh-huh.
the cellar, he liked
Yep. It just rolled over to 9:30, 9:35. Yeah.
Yep. Welcome
about it.
in, Truth Hurts webmaster.
It's good to see each and every one of you. I love each and every one of you like a brother and a sister. We're talking taters tonight, though. Maybe if this works.
Maybe.
he started breathing solanine gas, and he either passed out from hypoxia, aka a lack of oxygen, or the solanine gas itself knocked him unconscious. From then, he would have passed away from the effects of the solanine, or, again, simple oxygen deprivation. Then, as each of her other family members entered the cellar, they likely immediately went to help their loved ones, inadvertently exposing themselves to more and more of the solanine gas, taking their lives. The only reason that Maria herself survived is that her grandmother left the door open, allowing fresh air into the cellar. She was saved, but not before her grandmother succumbed to the toxic fumes. Maria now lives with her relatives, and her extended family has asked for financial support to help give her a new life. When it comes to your own safety, the best way to keep yourself safe from solanine poisoning is to make sure that any potatoes are kept in a cool, well-ventilated, dark place, ideally a dry environment as well. You don't need anything fancy. Honestly, a dark cupboard is all you'll need to keep them as fresh as possible. If you suspect that your tubers are going bad, just cut into them to see if there's any green discoloration or other.
Did you see it? Do crime. It's a bad potato. It's hanging around with bad milk, moldy cheese in the back of the refrigerator. They're all plotting to go rob the freaking baking soda from the cabinets. Starting to get a little juicy around here. Hold on. Wait a second. If bad fruit is wine and bad milk is cheese, then what is bad meat? Jerky?
No.
Other visible rot. If you find any, it's best to just throw them away. If you need help remembering, just think of this rhyme. You can boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew. But if they're green, they're not for you. When potatoes are green, they'll put you in a coma. Thanks again to our sponsor.
All right.
Well, all right.
I love that dude. He's funny to me. He always tickles me. Where is, let's see. No, I need the button. That's the button. We need that bit, and then we put that bit over here. Who told you, Carrie? It was me. You know what's funny?
What?
Wait a second. We're at 39. No, we got a few more minutes. I'm going to let the poll stay up. Yeah, and by the way, folks, everybody on other channels, no, I don't want to end the poll. I just want to show it. Oh, I can't. It won't let me. It just rolls it down. Darn. Anyway, there's a poll over on my channel if y'all want to go jump in on the action. I believe Mandatory Carrie might have some splaining to do. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. Maybe he's the guy who sent the private investigator to investigate me. That was really weird. A couple of months after I started my YouTube channel, I find out that somebody's over here asking questions about me. I'm like, well, you tell them the truth? They're like, yeah. Well, what? I was like, okay. Nothing ever came of it. Nobody ever fessed up to it. I don't know what the hell. I have no idea. It was just some dude nobody knew showed up at a few places in town, was like, do you know this guy? Yeah, that's homie over here. He's weird. They're like, okay, yeah, that's the guy. All right, so ooh, yeah, no. So back in the 20s, maybe even a little bit earlier, the late like 1890s, 1880s, there was not quite such a big kerfuffle about the whole slavery issue going on in Canada and Alaska and whatnot as there is was in America at the time. And so the whole concept of the Civil War and everything was just lost on these people. They were just too far away for it to ever matter. And during this time period, there was an interaction between a group of natives. I guess you'd call them Native Canadians or Aborigines. I think they refer to them as Aborigines, in indigenous peoples. Anyway, a group of these people interacted with a group of white settlers, and these settlers came in, and there was this big fiasco that went down involving a particular village that just seemed to disappear off the earth. The name of the village was the Angikuni Lake Village, and there were an initial report of this village existing, and then later reports of it being completely abandoned. Now, I don't know if you know how decomposition works, but when you build something in a freezer, it tends to stay up for a long time, right? So you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell if at a glance if a village had been sitting in the icy tundra for 10 years, 20 years, or 500 years. It would take some stuff to tear it down for it to look old, because it's basically living in a freezer. That makes sense? It's not vacuum sealed, though, because that's the real deal.
Yeah, it makes sense, though.
Deep in the Keewatin Barrens of what is now the territory of Nunavut, amid an endless plain of tundra and muskeg, lies lonely Angikuni Lake, one of a myriad of near-identical watering holes which dot the historic homeland of the Inuit and Chippewayan nations. Although this nondescript body of water, with its resident populations of caribou, black flies, and tundra wolves, bears no outward characteristic which might distinguish it from its many cousins. It happens to lie near the junction of two ancient trade routes which connect Hudson's Bay with the Arctic Ocean. It also serves as the setting of one of Canada's spookiest urban legends. On November 25, 1930, a disturbing article appeared in the Muncie Evening Press, a newspaper based out of the city of Muncie, Indiana. In a front-page piece complete with 3 photos, journalist Emmett E. Kelleher, a reporter for the Newspaper Enterprise Association, based out of the northern frontier city of La Pas, Manitoba, described the mysterious disappearance of an Inuit village on the shores of northerly Angikuni Lake. Far up in the heart of one of the loneliest places on Earth, Kelleher began, in the Lake Angikuni country, a whole tribe of Eskimos has vanished. Somewhere, somehow, the endless desolation of Canada's northern barren lands has swallowed up to 25 men, women, and children. It is one of the most puzzling mysteries that has ever come down out of the Arctic. The news of it has just reached the Pas, on the fringe of civilization. Kelleher went on to explain how a white man named Joe LaBelle, whom he described as a roving trapper of the barren lands, came upon the tribe's abandoned camp while crossing Angikuni Lake in his canoe. Long before he paddled ashore, LaBelle knew that something was very wrong. Instead of the lively hum of activity which typically surrounded Inuit camps, the only humming in evidence was that of black flies, which swarmed about the bodies of 7 sled dogs scattered throughout the grounds. When he hailed the camp's unseen occupants, he was greeted by 2 half-starved huskies, which rose on skeletal legs and slunk toward him, substituting the lusty barks by which Inuit sled dogs typically addressed strangers, with pitiful whines. Suspecting that the village had fallen victim to some terrible disease, LaBelle walked over to one of the 7 ragged tents that comprised the camp, and cautiously drew back its caribou skin door. "I'll admit that when I went in the first tent, I was a little jumpy," he told Kelleher. "Just looking around, I could see the place hadn't known any human life for months, and I expected to find corpses inside. But there was nothing there but the personal belongings of a family. A couple of deer parkas were in one corner. Fish and deer bones were scattered about. There were a few pairs of boots, and an iron pot, greasy and black. Under one of the parkas I found a rifle. It had been there so long it was all rusty. The thing looked as if it had been just left that way by people who expected to come back. But they hadn't come back." The trapper examined another tent, which had been torn to ribbons by the wind. Inside, he found 3 fox skins and a rusty rifle. "Those 2 rifles seem strange," he said. "The last thing an Eskimo ever parts with is his rifle." Try as he might, LaBelle was unable to find any clue as to the fate of the vanished Inuit. There were no signs of trouble or violence. The only thing of interest, he noted, was an empty stone cairn by the lakeshore, which he tentatively identified as a desecrated Inuit grave. LaBelle told Kelleher that the whole scene brought to mind the Tornrark, an evil spirit of Inuit legend, sometimes depicted as an ugly man with tusks, whose predations the natives attempted to ward off with charms. This demon is likely an inland iteration of a deity which the Greenlandic Inuit called Torngarsuk, which some anthropologists have equated with the devil. Shaking off the unsettling notion that the village had fallen prey to that preternatural predator, the trapper caught some fish in the lake, fed them to the 2 starving dogs, and fled the area, loath to spend the night there. Joe LaBelle admits that stumbling upon the abandoned village gave him the creeps, Kelleher concluded. A man doesn't get the creeps readily when he spends months at a time trudging by his lone across the barren lands, where there is never a house or a human being to break the white-rimmed silence. But Joe LaBelle got creepy just the same. The empty sky and the silent rocky plain held a mystery, and the trapper didn't like it. Following his disturbing discovery, LaBelle traveled throughout the surrounding tundra, visiting several Inuit camps along the way. None of the natives he met were able to shed any light on the fate of their missing kinsmen, supposing, as he had, that they had probably been taken by the Tornrark. Certain that the villagers had met some untimely end, the trapper proceeded to La Pas, where he reported his discovery to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. With the help of local trappers, the Mounties launched a search for the missing Inuit, but were unable to find any sign of them. The only potential clues they managed to unearth came in the form of a 10-year-old Inuit boy of mysterious origins, who wandered into another Inuit camp 150 miles north of Anjikuni Lake, and an Inuit man named Saumek, who was suspected to know something about the fate of the vanished villagers. While being treated for frostbite at a Hudson's Bay Company hospital, Saumek was interrogated by an interpreter in the Mounties' employ. But Saumek refused to talk about it, Kelleher wrote, mentioning Tornrark mysteriously, but refusing to answer any questions. In the 93 years that has preceded the publication of Kelleher's article, the story of the vanished village of Anjikuni Lake has appeared in dozens of books and TV programs on the unexplained, often being presented as a true historical mystery. Indeed, many of the story's trappings are grounded in reality. Emmett E. Kelleher was a real Northern journalist who, despite subsequent disparagements of his work and character, wrote serious articles on Northern Canadian news, covering, for example, the famous 1929 search for the McAlpin expedition, a party of aerial prospectors who became stranded in the middle of the northern tundra during a severe storm. Joe LaBelle was a real trapper who plied his trade in the wilderness north of Flin Flon, Manitoba. Anjikuni Lake is a real lake, which does have a mysterious stone cairn on its shore. This structure, incidentally, was rediscovered by Canadian wildlife biologist and author Farley Mowat in 1948, who described it in his 1961 book, Ordeal by Ice, writing that it was not of normal Eskimo construction, and proposing that it was erected by either Hudson's Bay Company explorer Samuel Hearne, who visited the lake in 1770, or perhaps by Captain Francis Crozier, a member of the ill-fated Franklin expedition, who, in 1848, vanished without a trace, along with 105 of his men, somewhere in the Arctic wilderness. But the story itself, at least according to the RCMP, is a fabrication. The Mounties' first public rebuttal to Kelleher's story was allegedly made less than 2 months after the article's first publishing in the Muncie Evening Press. According to the prolific Canadian paranormal writer John Robert Colombo, in his 1988 book, Mysterious Canada, Sergeant J. Nelson of the RCMP's La Pas department investigated the alleged vanishing in the wake of the story circulation and submitted his report on January 5, 1931. 12 days later, RCMP Commissioner Cortland Starnes made Nelson's report public. Although this author has been unable to locate a copy of the report, Colombo republished excerpts of it in his book. According to the report, Nelson's investigation consisted of speaking with a trader named D. Simons, who operated an independent trading post on the shores of Windy Lake, about 150 miles south of Lake Anjikuni. Simons had not heard any reports of a vanished village from the reliable white and Inuit trappers with whom he did business, and expressed doubt that such an event had taken place. Nelson then determined that the photo of the caribou skin tents, displayed in Kelleher's article, did not depict abandoned lodges at Lake Anjikuni, but had actually been taken back in 1909 in Fort Churchill, Manitoba, by an ex-Mountie named P. Rose. Although Nelson did not visit Lake Anjikuni himself, nor interview any of the Inuit in the area, he was sufficiently confident to conclude his report by declaring that the story was, to his mind, a work of fiction, adding that Mr. Kelleher is in the habit of writing colorful stories of the North, and very little credence can be given to his articles. Although Sergeant Nelson's investigation was arguably far from thorough, it was enough for the RCMP to close the case on the vanished village of Lake Anjikuni. The Mountie's official position on the story has been borne out by the responses received by several researchers who have made formal inquiries into the case over the years, including Ronald G. Dobbins, who was told that the RCMP could not find any mention of the case in their records, and Dwight Whalen, who included his own debunking of the Lake Anjikuni story in his article, Vanished Village Revisited, which was published in the November 1976 issue of the magazine Fate. Today, the RCMP has a short paragraph on the mystery of Lake Anjikuni on their official website, declaring flatly, "The story about the disappearance in the 1930s of an Inuit village near Lake Anjikuni is not true." Despite its official debunking, the vanished village of Lake Anjikuni, as mentioned, has been repeatedly presented as a genuine historical mystery in both print and television, often acquiring new details with every retelling. In his 1959 book, Stranger Than Science, for example, American writer and radio broadcaster Frank Edwards wrote that one of the tents which LaBelle examined contained a child-sized sealskin garment in the process of being mended. The ivory needle used to do the sewing was still embedded in the skin, as if the Inuit seamstress had hastily abandoned her work. Other supplementary details included a 2-week on-site investigation by the Mounties, who determined that the Inuit had abandoned the village 2 months prior to LaBelle's visit, based on the type of berries found in some of the cooking pots, and formal autopsies conducted by Mountie pathologists on the dead sled dogs, all 7 of which proved to have died of starvation. Edwards, incidentally, would later resurrect another controversial tale of the unexplained, set in Steep Rock, Ontario, which some readers may recall from my 2019 book, Mysteries of Canada Volume 1. Subsequent retellings of the story were less conservative in their use of artistic license. In some of the many iterations of the tale that have since transformed Kelleher's article into an urban legend, Joe LaBelle's discovery coincided with the sighting of a mysterious bullet-shaped light heading in the direction of the village, reported by trapper Arnaud Laurent and his son. Pots filled with fish were found hanging over long-dead fires, as if they had been abandoned in the midst of cooking. And the settlement at Lake Anjikuni graduated from a camp of 25 to an Arctic metropolis of 1,200 or 2,000 souls. Sensational embellishments like these make it easy to accept the official narrative that the tale of the vanished village is nothing more than a far-flung fable, which, as Dwight Whalen put it in his article for Fate magazine, an experienced trapper told to an imaginative and not too conscientious newsman. Nevertheless, in this author's opinion at least, the case is not quite as open and shut as the RCMP would have us believe. It is not at all inconceivable that 25 Inuit, compelled to hastily abandon their camp on account of some extraordinary circumstance, might have lost their way and perished in the vast Keewatin Barrens. As mentioned, 82 years before the publication of Kelleher's article, Captain Francis Crozier and 105 survivors of the disastrous Franklin expedition, a voyage of Arctic exploration conducted for the purpose of discovering the Northwest Passage, vanished without a trace in that very same stretch of wilderness. It is also not beyond the realm of possibility that news of such an isolated tragedy, which by its nature would lack primary witnesses, had not made its way into the trading room of D. Simons, 150 miles to the south, at the time of Sergeant Nelson's investigation. Even in the 1930s, many Canadian Inuit lived the traditional way, speaking little to no English, occasionally meting out their own international justice without recourse to the RCMP, and avoiding conversation on controversial subjects with white men they did not completely trust.
You want to go ahead and do your little outro, exit thing before you go, or are you already out?
What did you say?
You want to tell everybody what you is and what you do, or do they already all know?
They probably already all know.
Probably. But, we still got ATL's channel going over here.
Oh, I'm AJOT. I am a 1A activist. I do it as a hobby. I also like to do TikToks. I have a second channel that I built, Fire Phoenix. It's based on meditation, recovery, kind of the other side of AJOT. Yeah. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe to Caucasian and ATL, and yeah.
It's the best I've ever heard, baby. You did real good. I'm proud of you. NC Tire Hunter, good to see you, buddy. Apparently, 45% of people think I have a Tigger. 24% think I have a Marvin Martian. 18% believe I have a Pooh. And 12% think I have a tattoo of Rob Zombie somewhere upon my anatomy.
That's funny.
That's pretty good. I like those odds, man. That's pretty good. Am I supposed to reveal what the tattoo is?
You should tell us.
I have a tattoo of Tigger. Specifically the scene where he says flouncy, bouncy, pouncy, fun, 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 fun.
You used to always say it when I first met you. That's how my name.
Because the most wonderful thing about Tiggers is Tiggers are wonderful things. Their tops are made out of rubber. The bottoms are made out of springs. The bouncy, 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 fun, 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 fun. The most wonderful thing about Tiggers is
I'm the only one.
Right? Good to see you, NC Tire. Now, like having you in here, Jeff. All right, so I dropped the link in chat, right? AJOT's fixing to step out. I apparently offended ATL audits because, he's real sensitive. I love that guy. I really do. He's hilarious. And even if he disrupts my show, I still like having him around just to hear him crunch on the chips.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you got to love people for what they do, not what you want them to be, right?
So why didn't the shrimp share?
I have no idea.
Really? Because he was shellfish.
Oh my God. I've got to get a soundboard. You just made it necessary. I need a good and a good laugh track, and then a sad laugh track, and then a wah, wah, wah,
right.
Wah.
Even a boo, but all right, thank you for having me. Thanks, everybody.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Much love. All right. So this is the part that everybody likes to have fun with me because boo. Who are you? Why are you here? So when you wake up in the morning, I want each and every one of you to go and look in the mirror. Don't do it tonight because your brain's in the wrong frame of mind. You need to wake fresh up out of bed. And the very first time you think about it, stop and look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, are you really doing what you want to do? And what can you do to accomplish your goals? You don't have to answer the questions, but ask the questions, because only by asking these questions can we resident troll. I thought I was a resident troll. Can we improve ourselves on a daily basis? Merely live today better than yesterday and strive to live tomorrow better than you did today. That got me off drugs. And it may sound really, really simple, and it is. The inaction of this is doing things like cutting off certain friends because they're friendly, but in the wrong way. Getting rid of certain people out of your life because they're completely toxic and ruin everything they touch. Eliminate liars from having a direct effect on your life. Gaslighters, imaginary people, those people who live an entire life that doesn't actually exist because you know them, and yet you want to look at their Facebook profile and it's like that person doesn't exist. This person is imaginary. You know these people. Completely toxic. You don't have to completely eradicate friendships with them, but you might have to remove them from daily influence on your daily life. All of these things will improve your life in small amounts. Deal with your warrants. If you have any type of a legal issue, go and deal with it. It will cost you money. They don't care about anything else. Money. Just money. You can do the whole indigent system. It works. It sucks. Nobody likes it, but it gets you out from under the thumb of the law eventually. And no, that whole system is unfair. It's completely clogged and darn near useless to try to take any procedural stance in any direction. They just don't want to hear it because they feel like they're being overswamped by an underprepared system, when in reality, they're not doing the speedy process that's supposed to be going on. Kimba M, welcome to the show. Good to see you. I was just fixing to go out, actually. What? Nope, it didn't happen. Why didn't it happen? Darn it. Let's do that again. See, it's supposed to be pinned. It didn't replace the pinned message. All right. So I'm going to turn on a movie. We're going to have us a chat backstage. Anybody wants to pop up can. I'm going to verify that everything is turned off when I turn off. And I'm going to do I'm going to do Jeff's play out song. Because, you know, it was his panel was the very first panel I ever came up on. It was the very first time. And I did it totally by accident. I dropped my phone and accidentally went through that whole rigmarole. I had already signed up for StreamYards and didn't realize what I had done. Now let's see. Is that the one? Is this the one? Let me mute up and make. You got to hit all the right buttons or none of this shit works, right? Man, I've had a great stream, actually. I had a couple of really good friends in. We had a wonderful conversation about the weirdest stuff imaginable. We spent 20 minutes on figs. Can you believe it? So, yeah, anyway. Mandatory carry, you're welcome to come in. Whatever y'all want to do with it. But this is one of my favorite outros I ever made.
Fuck this shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks. Don't mind me. I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Alright then. I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I don't really care. I'ma get the fuck up out of here. Fuck this shit, I'm out.